Lord Xerus, Lord Xerus, Lord Xerus, Lord Xerus, Lord Xerus.
Hello, my lords and ladies, and everyone in between. I'm Lord Xerus, and welcome to my new castle. I haven't seen you in a while, and I apologize for that. We moved from one castle to another one. Actually, we had to conquer it first, and then we moved all our stuff from the old castle to the new castle, and, well, it was a real hassle. And in the meantime, I did a lot of projects that I did not film, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to show you the result of those projects right now. If I may show you my undercarriage, my casket right here. Oh, I think I broke it. Oh no. Well, you know, that's another one for the shop. That's the thing about armor, you're always fixing it. It's never ending. Just every day you're just working on metal and pounding it out and grinding it and all that stuff. So what I did is I actually removed a couple of the lames from the inside and then put them back here. Like that? Break it, baby. Yeah. You gotta always be ready to take a rat to the ass. You gotta protect yourself from those rear collisions. You gotta protect those sweet mitts. You know what I'm talking about? So here's another project that I worked on. This is my two-handed greatsword. I call her Dream Cleaver. I didn't film this project just because it was so similar to my one-handed sword that I didn't really feel like it was worth making another video for. I used those same waste chemicals from Surf and Chemical that I mixed, and I put them in a bucket, and I just get this crossguard in there. I had great results. I still added one single coat of spray paint just to give it a little more protection. And this time, instead of using that lacquer, I coated the whole thing in Gorilla Glue to see if that would last any longer than the lacquer, because the lacquer actually flaked off pretty easily. This has a thrusting tip on the end instead of a pommel. When you're guarding yourself using this weapon, you can use the pommel to do pommel strikes. So here's what I'm going to do today. It's come to my attention that I need to acquire new pauldrons. These pauldrons were actually one of the first pieces of armor that I acquired, and that being such, I kind of didn't know what I was doing. So these pauldrons are actually made out of mild steel. Now there's not anything necessarily wrong with that, but the problem that I'm experiencing is that during combat they get dented. And when they get dented, they get bent out of shape. And when they get bent out of shape, they bind up. In any case, even when they weren't dented, these pauldrons do tend to bind up anyway. So you see right here what's going on here? It's binding up. And that tends to, limit my mobility. So I've come to the conclusion that I need smaller pauldrons. And not only smaller pauldrons, but pauldrons made to a metal similar to my breastplate. This is made out of 410 stainless steel. It's got a really good hardness. It doesn't dent during hand combat. Now I went ahead and purchased these pauldrons from Nadler Metal Crafts. These are on clearance. I actually picked these up for only 19 bucks, which is a really good deal. Now, the only problem is that oh my goodness. You see the size of these pauldrons, they're actually enormous. They're even bigger than the ones I'm wearing now. They're made for a gigantic, 7-foot tall Russian dude. And I am not one of those. I like to pretend that I'm a big, tall dude, but I'm a little guy, I'm kind of a little pipsqueak. I'm not as tall as I look on TV. I'm a little Tom Thumb looking dude, Little itty-bitty, short drink of water. A little Napoleon Dynamite, you know what I'm saying? I'm like Tom Cruise. I've got big screen presence, but in person, I'm kind of short.
Hey, don't be down on yourself, big guy.
What's that, little Xerus?
Don't sell yourself short, big Xerus. You've got a big heart, and that makes you big to me.
Well, that's nice of you to say, little Xerus. Huzzah!
Huzzah!
So I do need to actually tailor this to make it fit my shoulder. Alright, so here we have my arms. These are my current arms. I wanted to make a note of how high these arms actually go up. I actually had that made custom. I asked the armor to do that. I'm not really sure why. I just wanted to cover as much of my body as possible with metal. From the end of this pauldron to the hole that's actually holding it up, that's about 5.5 inches. I mean, that kind of gives you an idea how actually small these pauldrons need to be, because these pauldrons are way too big. Total length of the pauldron is about 8 inches. I'm kind of wondering, maybe I should measure my shoulder. Yeah, roughly 8 inches. I don't know if you saw any of that. Tap it off camera. The best place for things to happen is off camera. I want to keep these holes, because these holes are going to be useful. I don't want to drill more holes than I need to. I don't know if these are oriented for one arm or the other. I think the maker just got a little sloppy and just kind of off-center there. Put them like this. Like that? Is that better? I don't know. Well, these things are handmade, so that's totally understandable. I did get them on clearance, and I am about to cut the hell out of them. These are not mild steel, these are heat treated. I forget which metal, but they should not dent like my other pauldrons. Now, I've seen other people's pauldrons and the way that they're designed. Sometimes they got a little mushroom shape, like they kind of cut in a little bit. And I think that is to avoid contact with the chest plate. I am wondering how much I'm gonna have to cut down here. Alright, I think before we go any further, we should take these old pauldrons off. So, they're held on here by a couple of Chicago screws way up in there. Kinda not sure how I'm gonna do this. Come on, get in there. Okay. Alright, you know what? I'm gonna need some more dexterity. Equip workies! Oh man, not these. These ones are all jacked. They got holes in them and they're all threadbare and stuff. No. Let's try it again. Equip workies! Alright, now that's more like it. Oh man, it kinda helps if this thing is set to the right diameter. Oh no. Stay in there. Okay. Don't always have to do everything the hard way, Xerus. Not everything has to be a 20-minute montage. I realize that a lot of people don't choose to use Chicago screws. I do, because, I don't know, I find them convenient. That is, of course, until this happens, when one of them fights for its very existence and I'm trying to remove it. It's kind of funny, because they break all the time. When you want to take them apart, they suddenly become the hardest substance on Earth. Or rather, the thread lock does, anyway. Oh, no. Oh, okay. I'm gonna need my bigger screwdriver. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Progress. That took way too long. Time to do it all over again. I'm just gonna save you some time and do this off camera, okay? You know, off camera's the best place for things to happen. Any screenwriter will tell you that. That's a joke, by the way. Alright, so now I kind of have to get serious about deciding what shape I want this to be in. I definitely need to cut this for length, but as I was saying before, I don't want to cut too much, because I need it to interface with this part here. I know that most people actually point these to their gambeson, but I find that to be a little bit complicated, so I actually use the shoulders to hold them up. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure out 8 inches, and then if I need to shorten them later, I can shorten them. I'm kind of also debating what kind of edges to put on here. Maybe I'll make it kind of a nice lenticular design, something like that. That's nice and simple. Now I just got to make a similar drawing over here. I want to fix the unevenness of this thing. I think I kind of have to hold it like this in order to make a straight line. I know it's kind of hard to see with all these squiggly lines on here, but that's how I used to do it in art school. You just draw the crap out of it till you get it right. Alright guys, so we have a plan. So let's get out to the workshop and get started. It's actually just my backyard. It's literally just a table in my backyard where I have my tools, so, you know. Alright, well you guys are in for a treat. Ordinarily I do this stuff during the day, but I kind of ran out of daylight, so I'm gonna grind in the dark, and you're gonna like it. The neighbors might not, but you're definitely gonna like it. That actually, that worked out pretty well. I was able to do this relatively easily. So I'm gonna do it again on this side. I'm gonna replicate my results here. See how this compares. Oh, wow. Let me get my marker to mark this out. When I started grinding, I forgot to wear a mask, and probably don't want to breathe this, whatever's coming out of this metal. And I don't want chunks of metal in my lungs either. So it's probably a good idea to wear a mask while you do this. Alright, I'm just kind of putting a rough shape around here. Actually quite different from the one I drew. I got pretty close though. I'm just working freehand. I got the shape pretty darn close. Uh-oh, there goes my light. Time to do it again. It's probably a pretty good time to mention that using an angle grinder is absolutely nothing like using a saw. You can't just power through the material like you would if you were sawing through wood. It's actually a much slower process involving tracing the same line over and over again. You don't want to simply power through the metal, because if you do, it will heat up, potentially undoing the heat treatment in the areas where you're trying to work. If you're not careful, you can end up placing grooves in the metal that you didn't mean to, and then you have to go back and work against yourself, which is especially frustrating. So when you do this, you have to be patient and take your time. We've done cutting out our shapes here, but we still have one more thing to do, which is we need to finish these edges. There's some shards coming off there, and with other softer materials, that's not usually such a big deal, like wood. I mean, wood splinters are painful, but metal splinters, oh my god, really, you gotta really be careful with those, because those will cut you. Wear your safety equipment, wear your gloves. I was wearing a face mask and a breathing mask earlier. Alright guys, if you've never used an angle grinder before, just want to show you the different kinds of wheels. This is a cut-off wheel. It's very thin, you can see. It's for what I just did with the metal, it's just making cuts through metal like that, alright? This is a grinding wheel, and the grinding wheel is a lot thicker. You can make cuts with this too, but really what this is for is removing material. So I would use this when I want to grind out a rivet. So what we're going to use right now is the flap wheel, all right? Now this flap wheel is basically designed to create a little bit of chaos, and I know that seems counterintuitive, but why would you want chaos when you're grinding? The reason is so that you don't inadvertently create more sharp edges on your metal. Because if you use something like the grinding wheel is very, rigid, it's very straight. So when you're grinding on this, you run the risk of inadvertently creating more sharp edges. And you kind of want to avoid that. So the flap wheel is designed to make the edge a little bit more irregular, kind of like the photo equivalent of being blurry. So it makes it more smooth, so that there aren't as many sharp edges on your finished piece. So that's what we're going to do right now. Alright, well that was just a quick job. I was really more interested in just making these safe to handle. These are basically spare parts at this point, so I don't really care if they're perfect. I'm more interested in these. These are more important. So now all we need to do is to measure these up and see where we need to drill our holes. So I've got my shoulder pieces here. I've got my arms, and I even pulled out my gorget from their box. And I've been thinking about how best to attach all these things together. My initial plan was to drill some holes right here and bolt it on there, just a lot like they had been. Although, that's not quite correct, because these arms were not bolted to the end of my last pauldrons. They were actually bolted to a harness that fit underneath. And you saw me struggle to take that off of the harness. I'm thinking about instead making a harness out of these leather straps. The reason that's handy, again, is so that I can test out the length. See if it's too short or if it's too long, I can adjust it accordingly. Now, in terms of how to attach these pauldrons to this gorget, I went ahead and took the old hardware off of my old pauldrons, which is this flat ring here, and this worked reasonably well. I don't think I really want to retool all of this. I was thinking of doing a whole other system, like some kind of tab system, like a piece of leather that came out, or even a piece of metal that was attached, have the straps go through that. But why complicate things? I just need to make a new junction here that's small enough for the flat ring, but then wide enough to take on these two holes that are already here. And so, if I do that, then that means most of the work's already done for me. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim these up to make these edges nice and straight. Now I'm going to cut a length that's long enough here. Round off the corners a little bit just to make it look a little bit more presentable. I got two more or less identical pieces. I'm going to fold these the longest width in half here. Then I want to come sit it next to my flat ring and take my punch or any other marking tool. I'm just going to mark where I want to punch my holes. A little off, but that's fine. Making these holes is a lot easier on concrete. The flat ring's not going to go through these holes. We got to cut slots in here. Alright, see, just like that. Now, something I probably failed to consider was the difficulty I'm going to have in getting the tab through the flat ring. Alright, so there we go. Start of our tabs here. Oh yeah, we got to get these flat rings out of here. There we go. It did take me a long time to get comfortable enough to, mess around with my own equipment like this. First I would do an adjustment here and there, And then before long, I was just, tearing things apart. Those last pauldrons that I had, I actually dismantled them completely and rebuilt them. I got parts from those old pauldrons just laying around. I repurposed them. So now we gotta see if we can get these tabs into the flat ring here. Of course, I'm such a butterfingers. These gloves kind of make it really hard. There we go. Put that other one on there. All right, so now I gotta kind of trim down these corners and make them look a little bit more uniform. In order to get the placement of these holes, I'm gonna take our awl, place this there like that, and kind of poke holes into it. Just want to mark it. And if you want to opt for something a little bit less destructive, something like a chalk pencil will work better. I've already screwed it up, but it's okay, because I can always face this side of the leather towards the metal. A little cockeyed still. How about this? I'm going to make the mark where I want it to go first. Then I'll make my other marking. That's a little bit better. Should be able to punch through both of these at the same time. Come on, what's the hold up here? Still no, huh? Wow, it's a tough cookie. I hope you're this tough in the face of the rigors of combat. I really notice that when you're doing this kind of stuff, you really want like a concrete or a stone table, because you get a wood table or anything that's even has a little bit flexible, all the force gets reverberated. It doesn't go into your tool like it needs to. There we go. So we've got our tabs now. There actually is something we need to do before we can assemble our harness. Alright, so I'm just tapering the tips of these, and then on the other end, I'm just going to round off the corners. That's just so they can rotate a little bit more easily, It'll make sense when we put it together. Now I'm going to go ahead and punch holes in each one of these on either end. Okay, to bring it out here, to use the concrete, because like I said before, if you try to do this on a table that's too springy, all the energy just bounces right back out of the leather. Alright, so we got all our parts here. We got our Chicago screws, we got our straps, our flat rings, we got our little tabby bits, we got shoulders, and we got our arms, of course. Conveniently enough for us, these tabs on the arms here already have holes in them. I'm just gonna mock this up right now. I'm just gonna put it together, not in a permanent way, but just in a way so that I can easily take it apart if I need to. The connector part of the flat ring, you want that inside the tab, just for aesthetic reasons, really. Come on, Gravity, help me out. Sometimes I feel like I set these scenes up and then immediately block your view with something, so I apologize for that. There we've got the, theoretically what it's gonna look like. Although it kinda looks a little crooked. Here's the other side. We might need a little bit of adjusting. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the other one now. Alright, these are all hooked up. Now all we need to do is to test them out and see how they fit. Alright guys, so my arms are all mocked up. Look at them. Aren't they cool? There's only one problem. And that's when I raise my arms like this. You see how they're flapping up like that. It looks like I'm kind of like a robot and I'm about to release my missiles. Release the missiles! Kind of a cool effect, but not really ideal in combat, because that's just pretty much asking for someone to slip some rattan right up there into my shoulder. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is probably kind of shorten those straps, or maybe even use a less rigid leather. That's what's causing it to bunch up like that, you can see. Take a peek underneath there. Quack, 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 quack. Wait, chickens don't quack, do they? Where was I? Oh, I get really easily distracted, don't I? Anyway, so I have to find some way to address that, so that it doesn't flap up and invite my enemies to take a cheap shot right in there. Hurt my sweetmeats. Take a cut of my shoulder roast if you know what I mean. So, I made the marks. Empty cardboard box underneath here for dunnage. Now, sometimes when you're drilling into metal, you do need to make some kind of a pilot hole or a dent or something using a nail. Working on the painted side is sometimes a little bit easier than trying to drill into the smooth side. When you're drilling into metal like this, you do want to use the right drill bit. I'm using a cobalt drill bit here. Usually a drill press is best. I don't have a drill press. I'm actually not loving this cardboard box. But drilling into some of these tempered metals can be kind of tough. Because when you get to this point, the drill bit really gets stuck in there. Twist around, smooth down the edges. Oh, this is really nice and easy to drill into. Got a nice little metal spaghetti right there. When you're drilling in the metal, you want to kind of use a low RPM, because if you go too fast, the metal right at the surface, the metal right where you're drilling will get really hard. It's called work hardening. Alright, well, let's put it together. So that's our hole right there. Oh, I should use a washer here, because what happens a lot is that under the great pressure of battle, sometimes these things will pop out of the leather. I think I used the wrong hole. Oh yeah, I did. I totally used the wrong hole. Oh, Xerus, when are you gonna learn? Everything's in my way. The light's in my way. I'm casting shadow on everything. This thing is impossible to lift, to hold on to. Washer, dryer, banana. I put this screw in the wrong hole again. I don't know how I keep doing that. That's the hole I want right there. No, it's not. It's not the right hole. Leave that all in there to mark its place. I don't know what it is about cloth and holes. Like, anytime there's any kind of fibers near a hole, they all just want to get in the hole and cover the hole. Finally. It's the top part. Okay, well that guy is bolted in there. Okay, so now I've bolted the two pauldrons directly to the arms. As I try this, I'm testing it. Oh! There's one problem. I feel like I'm wrestling myself. I'm my own worst enemy. Since the arms are bolted directly to the pauldrons, and the pauldrons are tied directly to my gorget, anytime I raise my arms like every time I raise my arms, the gorget just clotheslines me in the throat. So, yeah, that's not gonna work. I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board and redesign these attachment points. Alright guys, so what I went ahead and did is I re-added the original straps that we had put in here. They worked pretty well, except of course that the pauldrons were flapping up like chicken wings. So what I did to mitigate that was add these tabs, these leather tabs in here, which act like tethers, which keep the ends of the pauldron attached to the upper arm here, so the pauldrons don't go flapping all the way up. And if they do go up kind of high, they get pulled back. So that now when I move my arms, it moves freely, and the pauldrons don't flap around like a chicken. Or at least, maybe now, more like a smaller chicken. Alright, all that's left to do is try it out in a fight.
Round 1, fight. Lord Griffin wins. Round 2, fight. Lord Griffin wins. Round 3, fight. Lord Griffin wins. Round 4, fight. Lord Griffin wins. Round 6, fight. Double kill. Round 8, fight. Good on the arm. Low stamina. Finish him. Honorable surrender. Lord Griffin wins.
Well, clearly I have some work to do. This suit's still about 1,000 pounds too heavy. Might be time to look into some lamellar. Preferably aluminum. Alright, well we finished up our shoulders and everything looks good. Everything appears to be in working order. Good job, everybody. Alright, well thank you for joining me on this episode of Lord Xerus Does Stuff, a shoulder to grind on. Join me next time when I make even more cool stuff. Remember our motto, Nolite timere ut sugeret. Don't be afraid to suck. I'll see you on the battlefield. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go home and chillax. Boots and pants and boots and pants and boots and pants and boots and pants. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to read The Tale of the Order of the Blue Maiden. It's a high-flying adventure. Available now on Amazon, iTunes, Barnes & Nobles, and Kobo. Or go to thetale.com. You've never heard a tale like this.